Well, hello, welcome to another episode of the Fish Fiddler. It's been a long time. I don't know that I have a lot of great ideas of what to do, so I just thought I'd do something. So I'm going to play you a little something to get started, which, I don't know, maybe should be cropped. I haven't been practicing like I should. You know, I talked about practicing and learning stuff, and I've been distracted by lots of things and have not been playing the fiddle at all. Only on rare occasions. I was doing it every day, which was really helping a lot. I do enjoy the level that I've reached, though, so I can just sit down and play something. So we'll just do a little something. Okay, that was Crown with Many Crowns. I'm not paying enough attention to the timing, it seems. But anyway, there's lots of things to pay attention to. Tone, right note, etc., etc. Not making it scratch terribly and all that craziness. All that craziness. That was Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise. I've taken these from my church hymnal and printed them out bigger, scanned them so that I could mark on them. So on some of these, I've written the note name. So this one it says G, E, C, A, F sharp, D, G, B, B, A, G. So I've taken piano lessons years ago so I can read music, but I'm not proficient. Like I instantly know where it is. I can figure it out. So I've done some of them. The first several I wrote the note name and then I learned the notes. You can see on the neck I've got this little sticker on here. I ran it for a long time, don't pay attention to it all the time, and then it kind of started to get loose and it touched the string, so I took it off for a while. And then I put it back on. Anyway, violins don't usually have markings on them. There's no frets, so you can just slide your finger down a little tiny bit to adjust the note you're listening to. And so even if it's out of tune, you could presumably adjust for that somewhat if you could hear it right. Anyway, so this is not frets because frets actually are little bars across there that hold the string at a very specific distance. What these do is give you kind of an idea where the note is. So if you don't remember, you can do that. And then as you start to hear it, because you know it's right. So what I did is I used a tuner. So I've got one on here, a digital tuner. I used a tuning app for a long time. And this doesn't work fast enough to use it really very well while I'm playing. I just use it to tune. But it's like, okay, where is that note? And you move it and you play it until it reads on your tuner the right note. And then you kind of, you know what it sounds like and you know where it is. And so you keep playing it. And if you're pretty close, but you're off a little bit, it won't sound as good. So even if you don't know what an A sounds like, you're like, that's really flat or sharp. And you don't know that to start with. But eventually you realize whether it's too flat or too sharp, and you play the same thing over and over again, and it sounds better sometimes than others. And you can just give your brain lots of data. You do it lots of times, have some time to think about it. Do it every day. You do it a little segment, you have a day to wait, you do it again, and your brain analyzes all that and says, that one sounds better. And you could listen to someone who's skillful playing the same piece or read the same notes, it's a different piece even, and you're like, okay, that's how it's supposed to sound. That does sound good. Mine doesn't sound as good. Oh, but today it sounds better than it did yesterday. And so your brain kind of does that in the background. And over time, as you collect more experience, then that becomes a little more obvious, a little more second nature. So, you know, some people have lots of musical talent, some people don't. Some of the people with lots of musical talent have parents that are musical, and they were exposed from the very young age. Parents are playing music, they're playing instruments, they're talking about it, they're giving toy instruments to their children, and so it's second nature because of experience. If you don't have that experience, you can build that experience by using some instrument, just, you know, generating that experience. I actually think the violin, even though it's, you know, one of the more difficult instruments supposedly to play, for myself, I guess people think differently, but I took piano lessons, I played it, never understood what's going on. I can't hear it because you're playing, you know, 3, 6, whatever notes at the same time. You got to separate all those. And this is, unless you're really advanced stuff, you're only playing one note at a time. It's pretty tricky to play more than one note at a time. You can only do that in a very limited way anyway. And so this is the note. I hear one note after another, a note after another note. You can match what's written, what it sounds like, and it's easier, I think. Of course, everybody's different, so most people probably think it's more difficult, but whatever. So anyway, back to my notation. So I did some of these songs that are marked. See? Okay, these are kind of getting beat up now, but I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'll hold it up here anyway. Crowning with many crowns. See, I've got the note names up here. I've got the same on this one, and this one's the same. Now this one I didn't. So I'm playing this one by learning, okay, which notes that is. So the thing that hangs down here, that's middle C. And then these are every good boy does fine on lines, F, A, C, E. That's what I learned in piano. But it's just sequential. So that's C, and then the space is D, and then the line is E, and the space is F, and the line is G, and then the space is A. So G is the last note, and then it starts over A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And it goes up that way, and the reverse it goes down. And so you might not instantly say, oh, yeah, that's an E, that's an F, but you can learn it. And so it's really helpful to be able to read this. It helps you know the trend. You can see it goes up and down. It's the same. It goes up by 2. It goes down by 3. Whatever. Lots of things besides. It seems complicated. It seems silly, unnecessary. I didn't get good explanations as to how music notation works and why. I watched a pretty good YouTube documentary on the history of its development at some point. I've seen some alternative things that I don't think are as good. There's this. A lot of beginner violin music uses this violin tab, which I don't think is any more helpful. And then, even if it were easier, it's still a notation to learn. And then you can only use certain music that has that. I find it a distraction. I don't like music that has both. Anyway, there are 4 parts on here for a 4-part harmony. So generally 2 female on the higher side and 2 male on the lower side. And the violin is a high noted instrument, so it's the top line. So I play this top line just so there's 4 notes right here, and I'll only play the top one. And occasionally, if there's a note, the same note across the top for several, but some of the bottom ones are different, I might actually decide to pick a different one. I did that on, almost never did that, but let's see. Oh, right here. See, there's a G that's a half note and then an F. But this D is not sounded. Oh wait, no, it's not, because see, there's one here. Right. So the lowest part uses the D, and then the next part doesn't. The next part does. Oh no, I guess it does. That is the upper part. Okay, I was thinking I added just because I thought it sounded better. It does sound better if I skip it. Now that's just weird. There are 4 notes there, and then those 2 cross there. No, that's right. Yeah, I'm confusing myself. Sorry. So these line up right here. So half, quarter, quarter, half. There's 4 of them. So here, down here, there's the half is still across here, and there's 2 quarters. So this is for the 2 middle ones. So there's no D. I go ahead and play that D. I do this as a quarter, and then I insert a quarter note D right here, because I think it sounds better because I'm not playing the other notes. So anyway, that's kind of what I've done. I like doing this music better than violin music. It's easier to play. It's easier music. It sounds good. I can get together people who sing this stuff, and then they could, we could play it together. They could play it in their instruments. We could sing with it, which fancy orchestral kind of violin music, it's a lot more difficult to play. It's got lots and lots of 8th and 16th notes and stuff like that, and it goes at a much higher range. Now, I admit I'm only using a small range, because by doing this, so the E note, the highest one, we almost don't do that, because, so let me just play that. Okay, so that's the lowest it can go, because if I press down anywhere on that string, it makes the string shorter. So I can make it the note even higher. And this is just first position. You can play way down here as well. So this is as low as it goes, and that's really high to sing. So this is intended for ordinary people to sing, and so this note is just too high. Now this one's pretty low. Of course, you can make it, you can shorten the string and make it higher. So a little bit of this music, well, of course the lower notes, if you go into the lower parts, you can get into the other notes. But, so I could probably do, so I'm doing the top one is the soprano part, I guess, and then the alto, is that how it goes? The other way around? I don't remember. I've looked it up and forgotten. Anyway, so there's also a contralto, which is in between, I think, but in modern times is not used, and so alto does the part now because they don't have separate contraltos, and so they kind of pretend it doesn't exist, something like that. And so there's bass, baritone, and tenor as well. So there are actually 6 parts, but singing in parts has kind of died out so much so that I don't know. There are only 4 in here, and I was never taught to sing. I'm sure I could learn to do it, but you just have to put in the time. When somebody else hadn't done it for you as a child, it takes catch up on something you're interested in doing, and persistence. That's "Oh God, Our Help." The lyrics are super amazing. The first line, "Oh God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home." I learned this on the piano years ago, and the way it's unfamiliar. The cadence is a little harder for some reason than a lot of other songs. The notes are fairly simple, but the cadence is just awkward or different or unfamiliar or something. And I like the song. I thought it was hard to learn, so I kind of shied away from it, but I kind of felt impressed that I really ought to. And the words, I think, are really good, and so I think that makes sense. So I did learn to play on the piano. I don't know if I probably can't sit down and play it now, because thinking about it in the violin is different than thinking it in the piano, and I'm not skillful in practice to know it's not quick enough that I can just switch back and forth. I mean, I know that people that are really good and end up being music teachers, sometimes they can play 10 instruments and they just shift from one to another. Like I was talking to somebody about playing one of these things left-handed. This could be done. I think all you'd have to do is switch all the strings, and the bridge, of course, is lower on this side and then higher, so you can flip that around, but it's not going to fit perfectly because the top of the violin is not, what's that? Is that called the belly? I can't remember. Anyway, it's not perfectly symmetrical, so you'd have to sand the bottom of the feet to make it match perfectly, so you get good sound transfer between the bridge and the instrument. Oh, and you'd also have the problem if you got the sound post. Yeah, that's the problem. It would still work. So there's a sound post on this side, and then there's a bridge, a reinforcing rib that runs down that side, so that's not symmetrical. So if you flipped everything around, it would work a little different. I think it'd still work, though. So you could, you flip the bridge around, refit it, flip the strings around, and then you could do it this way. You could take this off, you put it in the chin rest on the other side. But I couldn't do it. I mean, I'd have to learn it over again. It's not, it's just completely different. Completely different. So this is, "Oh God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home." Next line, "Under the shadow of thy throne still may we dwell secure. Sufficient is thine arm alone, and our defense is sure." Now, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and people are agitated. I just watched a video on YouTube. This young man from Hawaii that's sailing sailboat in the South Pacific by himself. And some people in the comments, like, one person in the comments says, I need to see your videos to believe that there's good in the world. You know, you're good, you're doing this thing. It's like, wow. You know, we have to have a perspective of something that's valuable. The world is uncertain and difficult. And so the words to this are really meaningful. Now, verse 3, before the hills in order stood, or earth received her frame, from everlasting, thou art God, to endless years the same. So there's continuity. There's a lot of change in the world, but God's the same, and he was here before anything. He made everything, and he's going to remake everything. So, you know, in his arms, we're secure. We don't have to be agitated by the fact that there are wars and pestilence and, you know, violence and, you know, all kind of, and hypocrisy and persecution and meanness. You know, we don't have to fret about that. We can be calm. 1,000 ages in thy sight are like an evening gone, short as the watch that ends the night before the rising sun. If we think he's not getting stuff done, if we're impatient for changes we want to see, 1,000 ages in his sight are as an evening gone. He's lived for a very long time. He's going to live for a very long time. You know, forever is pretty long. And so he can wait a little while to make things turn out best. And if that means it takes a few years, a few hundred years, a few thousand years, he can deal with that. We can't, but we only can as we realize that he's in control. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come. Be thou our guide while life shall last in our eternal home. Is that exactly the same as the first one? Oh, it's close. Okay, not exactly the same. Anyway, if he's our guide while we're alive, and if he provides us some repose, some reward, something afterward, we can face any threat. We can live in the face of temptation and destruction. You know, you can, you know, if you are in harmony with God, if you know that he has you in his hand, then if somebody kills you, you know, it's not that big a deal, because this is only the trial. This is only the test period, the break-in period, the time before the exams. This is the time. This is the probation, if you will, the time when we get to decide who we're going to be loyal to. And if we choose the right side, nothing else matters. Alright, so that is more violining than I expected to do today, but hopefully that's desirable to some people. Let's look at our fish. Our fish are getting huge. Look at this biggest orange guy down here, this goldfish. My wife has decided to name him Jonah because he's a big fish, and Jonah was swallowed by a big fish. Of course, he's not that big, but, you know. Anyway, they're doing good. See the little poop trails? I'm overfeeding them, apparently. I haven't balanced that perfectly. These guys want to eat a whole bunch, but I want to make sure everybody else gets something to eat. So I've got 3 mollies. One of these guys died. That's sad. And I've got my angelfish in here. There's 5. And there's 2 plecos. No, 3 plecos. There's one right there on that rock. I don't know if you can see him. He's not moving much. They're kind of shy. But anyway, there they are. And we have baby angelfish. And I'm just going to have to, I think, pause the video and move over there. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just do this. Okay, so this tank looks a little dirty still. I've done a couple water changes recently. Look at those guys. They're so big. And anyway, I have not wanted to change their water too much because I didn't want to agitate them all. But I had 3 of them die. And I had 23 of them in there. I realized I'd waited too long, so that's sad. So I cleaned their filter, changed their water. The next morning I changed, well, no, one of them was sick. I changed water. The next morning, that one and 2 more were dead. I pulled it out in a separate tank, and it was dead, stuffed in the bottom somewhere, and there's 2 of these guys floating on the top. This is the first time I've had babies. I did lose some of the parent group when I bought them, too, so I haven't figured all that out yet. Anyway. Should have put this on my gimbal, but I wouldn't plan on holding it. Anyway, those are the angelfish. So I'm excited about the angelfish. I've got a friend who wants some, but he's got to adjust his accommodations a little bit more. I may pick out some new pairs from this. I don't know. I don't have room to just keep an unlimited number, so I will have to keep that in mind. Down here, we have there's endlers in here now, and what I was trying to do, there's a zebrafish, what are those things called? Daniel. I don't see, where's the guppy? There's a red and kind of orange-tailed guppy in here, and I had a yellow-tailed one, and it died, and I don't know why, because everyone else was happy in there. Those came from the local pet store, and the chain pet stores, their fish don't seem like they're very hardy. The ones I've ordered from breeders seem like they're a lot better. Anyway, I put endler females in here because they'll cross with guppies, and I was hoping to get them to breed. But see, see that blue one in the front, in this kind of center, that small guy, that's an endler. I don't know if I've got any crossbreeding or if I'll have it. I obviously don't know how to do this already. I'm kind of practicing. So those two right there, big ones, are females, female endlers. And there's a bunch of babies in there. It remains to be seen if any of those have been crossed at all with the guppy or not. And it's probably more likely for the endlers to breed with endlers, so I mean, really ideally I should remove all the male endlers, but the problem is they're might be partly crossed with guppies, and so I don't want to put them back in with endlers because I want to keep those strains separate. So I might have just made a lot of work for myself. Anyway, we got more stuff we could look at, but long videos are something I don't usually watch, so I'm going to just call it good, and thanks for tuning in.